Welcome to Daily Wisdom, Walking the Path with the Buddha, a podcast shared by David Roylance. This podcast is dedicated to guiding you to completely eliminate the discontent mind and the suffering it causes by attaining enlightenment. Learn and practice the teachings of Gotama Buddha that will guide you to fully attain a peaceful, calm, serene, and content mind with joy. To support this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha or visit buddhadailywisdom.com, where you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online learning resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Now, here's our teacher to share more.
Okay, I'd like to get started by welcoming everyone. Welcome to Wat Tung. Nice to see all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone who's joining online as well. Today is the very first day of a 7-month program. We're going to be guiding students through the teachings of the Buddha, using this book as a guide to be able to help them understand the path to enlightenment. What I'm going to be doing today is guiding you in a meditation session, and then afterwards I'm going to help you to understand what are the teachings of the Buddha and what the teachings of the Buddha are not, as an introduction to the teachings of the Buddha. Then ultimately I'm going to introduce students to this program and helping them to understand what this program's all about and how to get the most benefit out of a program like this. So welcome to all of you guys here. Welcome to everyone online who's joining as well. If you'd like to join for meditation, the way that we start is with some chanting to be able to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. It's important to note that during the lifetime of the Buddha, he used chanting as a way to help his students to be able to commit the teachings to memory, that every 2 weeks his students would come together and they would recite his teachings orally. So he used chanting as a learning tool or as a learning device. So you can see from the origins of chanting that this isn't a rite, ritual, ceremony, worship, or prayer, or anything like that. There's none of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. The Buddha didn't teach rituals and ceremonies and prayers and things like this. He taught you to do this inner work, this inner growth and development to be able to make your way to the enlightened mental state. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. There's chanting sheets over there on the cabinet. You can help yourself at any time to get a chanting sheet and you're able to chant along. For those of you guys that are online, you'll find this on our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. If you click on free books and scroll about 2/3 of the way down the page, you'll be able to see this chanting sheet there. We're going to be chanting this as we ease into the meditation. If you look at the English translation on these chants, you're going to see a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for the Buddha. And because of that, I don't think the Buddha created these chants himself. They were probably created by his students either during his life or after his death. Because the Buddha wouldn't walk around and say, here, chant these chants to me out of respect for me. This would be ego or arrogance and putting yourself above other people and looking down on them. And by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't have that in your mind anymore. You've eliminated that out of your mind, where you're not measuring and comparing people and putting yourself above or below them. So I'm sure the Buddha wouldn't have created these chants for himself to have his students chant to him. But if you learn from a teacher how to move from anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy, eliminating all of that from the mind and getting to a point where your mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, which is the enlightened mental state. If this teacher didn't want anything or expect anything from you, they were just helping you out of the kindness of their heart, you might actually have a lot of appreciation and gratitude for that person too. So that's why I think these came from his students, either during his life or after his death. After the chanting, I'm going to come in with some guidance where I'm going to be helping you to understand how to meditate while we're actually meditating together. Then we'll go into a period of quietness where we're just all meditating. Everybody here at the temple and anybody joining online, we'll just all meditate. Now, during this period of time of quietness, I'm sure you're going to hear occasional sounds. This is normal. You might hear a car go by, a dog barking, a bird chirping, someone might cough or sneeze. This is completely normal. If you're in meditation with a craving for permanent silence, when you hear a sound, you'll cause your mind to be annoyed and frustrated. This is why you can eliminate your discontent feelings, because it's the mind itself that's actually causing them. So through understanding the universal truth of impermanence, where things are constantly changing in the world, you can rest at ease in meditation, understanding that whatever sound you hear it is impermanent. It's going to arise, it's going to change, and it's going to fade away. And now you don't need to experience any annoyment or frustration as part of your meditation in just hearing a sound. We'll come out of that quiet period with some more chanting, and then that's where I'll start today's class, helping you guys to understand the teachings of the Buddha in this program and what the program's all about. In terms of your body position for meditation, there's 4 positions that the Buddha taught: seated, lying, standing, and walking. And you'll learn all these different positions as part of a program like this, where you'll be able to understand how to use these as different tools in your tool belt to be able to train your mind through meditation. What you're doing through meditation is you're training the mind. You're not training the body. There's multiple ways that you can meditate in terms of the position of your body, because the world is impermanent and not everybody's going to find the same position to be comfortable. So I'm going to introduce you to the seated position today, but then at later times in this program, I'm going to help students to be able to understand all the different positions and how they're used and why you might use one position versus another. So oftentimes people are starting in the seated position, so I'll give you guys some suggestions on that, but just understand what I'm sharing with you are recommendations for you to consider, because there's not just one fixed way to sit. Remember, you're training the mind here. You're not training the body. So you could be sitting on the floor. You could sit in a chair. Maybe if you're at home, you're on a bench or a sofa in a wheelchair. You can sit however you like. If you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of help soften your seat a bit. And if you're going to bring your legs together in the cross-leg position, you might just choose to do that lightly. Whereas if they're real tight, this can impede the circulation in the lower body. You like to allow the circulation to flow. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets your hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles, allowing the circulation to flow. In terms of your hands and arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and then he put this into his lap. And if this is comfortable for you, you could use it, but it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way, because that would be permanence, and we don't live in that world. We live in an impermanent world. So some people like to put their palms on their thighs or their knees. Some people put their palms up. Some people rest their hands comfortably in their lap. So you could put your hands and arms wherever you like. The same thing's true for anybody who's sitting in a chair or a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can also sit however you like. Some people like to put their feet flat on the floor or lightly cross at the ankles, but you can see me sitting in a chair here with my legs crossed. So this is an option as well. And then you can put your hands and arms wherever you like. In terms of your upper body, it's helpful if this is erect. With the sternum up and the shoulders back, it'll help keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation. What meditation is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities. So you'd like the mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation. Whereas if you were slouched, the mind would have a tendency to be dull or lethargic. But if you were real rigid, the mind could be overactive or uptight. So you'd like the upper body to be in the middle with the sternum up and the shoulders back, because not only will it keep the mind attentive and alert, but it'll make it easy for you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So I'm going to get started with some chanting in order to ease into the meditation. You're welcome to join along, and then I'll come back in with some guidance afterwards. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanang Apiwateyami Sawakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Sawakasangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato สัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะนะโมตัสสะภะคะวะโตอะระหะโตสัมมาสัมพุทธัสสะอิติปิโสมะคะวะอะระหังสัมมาสัมพุทโธวิชาจารนังสัมมุโนสกาโตโรกาวิตุอนุเตโรปุริสาดัมมาสติสัตตาตาวามนุสนังปุตโตภาควาติ Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you'd like to just establish the breath, a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled, just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakewa Wat Tung Mahakewanang Apiwateyami Savakato Mahakewata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakewato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Arhasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakewa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sekato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Manusarang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, good morning to all of you guys. Nice to see all of you guys. Welcome to everyone who's online as well. This is called breathing mindfulness meditation. This is a primary form of training that the Buddha used in addition to other things to be able to help him to be able to achieve enlightenment. You're going to need much more than just meditation to be able to get to enlightenment. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. It took him 6 years to be able to gradually train his mind to get to enlightenment. But meditation is very important. So that's why as part of this 7-month program that I'm teaching, we're going to be diving into meditation on Wednesdays. That's where I'm going to be teaching meditation and helping students to be able to understand the ins and outs of that. We're going to be starting that coming up this Wednesday, where there's a 4-part series on meditation, breathing mindfulness meditation. So depending on where you are out in the world, in the internet world, that might be Tuesday evening or Wednesday morning. And if you're not available during those times, it's actually recorded. So you can watch it on our Facebook page, you can see it on our YouTube channel, or listen to it on our podcast. If you experienced a lot of thoughts during your meditation, this is very normal. Oftentimes when people are first starting with meditation, they have a real bombardment of thoughts. It's like thought, almost like rapid fire. So if that's what you experience, no worries. That's completely normal. That's the reason why you need to meditate, because your mind doesn't have very much control, very much discipline. It's just rapid fire thoughts. So don't feel like you're bad at meditation or somehow you need to give up on meditation because your mind isn't letting go of thoughts. The goal of this meditation isn't to eliminate your thoughts. Sometimes that's what people think based on the guidance. The goal of this meditation is to notice your thoughts sooner and sooner and cut them off and let them go easier and easier. You're always going to have thoughts during meditation. Even as an enlightened being, you will still have thoughts. The difference is in the unenlightened state, you'll have a bombardment of thoughts where it's rapid fire thoughts, or you'll indulge in a thought. You'll think about it. You'll look at it. You'll play with it. You'll be like 2 or 3 minutes down the road. And it's like, oh yeah, that's right. I'm meditating. Let me bring my mind back to the breath. So if you experienced any of those things, that's normal. But over time, as you build up your meditation practice, this gets better. In fact, in this particular program, I'm going to gradually be expanding the meditation to be longer and longer and longer. So you get used to meditating for longer and longer periods of time. And what you would like to be doing is building up this meditation practice at home. So I'm going to be meditating with students during the classes, but you would like to be meditating regularly on your own. I'm going to be talking about this on Wednesday, how to build up your meditation practice. But between now and then, you could just be meditating at home about once or twice in the next couple of days. But ultimately, you're going to need to be able to bring up your meditation practice to 2 or 3 sessions per day. But between now and Wednesday, if you can get 1 or 2 in per day, that would be wonderful. And then on Wednesday, I'm going to teach all the ins and outs of meditation. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to introduce you guys to the teachings of the Buddha, helping you guys to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are and what they are not. And then I'm going to be helping you to understand what this program is all about. Because if you're here in Chiang Mai and you'd like to attend, you're welcome to attend. But also, you can attend online as well. So even if you're here traveling and you would like to attend this program as you travel or you go back home, we live stream all of our classes, we record them, so you can gradually learn the path to enlightenment and train your mind to get to this peaceful and joyful mental state that is the enlightened mind. As I talk today, I'm going to be pausing a few times to be able to open up for questions. And if you guys have questions, whether you're here at the temple or you're online, you can ask any and all questions that you like. Here at the temple, we have microphones in the white bowl there. We also have some up here in the front. If you could get a microphone, that would be helpful. You can take it back to your seat, press the gray button. You're going to see the lights come on, and you can hold this up to your chin so we'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online as well. If you speak here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then you can keep these microphones with you because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question, and you can just share the microphone with them. And if you're not using it, if you could turn it off, that'll be helpful so we don't get feedback through the speakers. Anybody who's online, if you would like to ask questions, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom in the comment section, and I'll be able to see that. Or if you're in Zoom, you can electronically raise your hand, unmute your microphone, and then ask any and all questions that you like that way. So I'm going to introduce you guys to the teachings of the Buddha by first helping you to understand what is a Buddha, right? This is the really best place to get started in introducing you to what the teachings of the Buddha are, is first just help you to understand what is an actual Buddha. A Buddha meets 3 primary criteria. The first one is that they get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. Then the second criteria is that they're going to dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people. And countless people are going to get to enlightenment during that person's lifetime. Then they will preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment after their death. So these are the 3 main criteria of what makes a Buddha a Buddha. Get to enlightenment by themselves, they dedicate their life to sharing their teachings, and countless people get to enlightenment during that period of time. Then they will preserve their teachings so that other people can get to enlightenment after their death. There's other criteria as well. The individual who's going to become a Buddha, they have a deep, profound memory. Even in the unenlightened state, they can remember countless details about their current life and their previous lives as well. In the average human being, there's a limited capacity in terms of your memory. This is why you think about the last 5 or 10 years of your life. You can remember pretty much the things that you've been involved in and what you've been doing. But if you think back to your childhood, you just have spotty memories. You don't have direct recall of everything you were doing in your childhood because your mind has a certain limited capacity. It's like a hard drive that there's maybe 500 gigabytes or 1 terabyte or something like that. And when you get to capacity, you need to delete old files in order to store new files. Well, an individual who's going to become a Buddha, their mind doesn't actually function that way. They have unlimited capacity to be able to remember countless details. So as they're experiencing life, they can remember all these things that they're experiencing in their current life and in their past lives too. They can remember quite a bit of detail from their past lives. And now they put together all that wisdom in their last life to be able to train their mind to get to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. That's how they do it, because they accumulate wisdom over multiple lifetimes. then an individual who is a Buddha can quickly determine the condition of someone else's mind by spending time with them. There are certain pollutions that are in the mind that are hindering it from experiencing enlightenment, and an individual who is a Buddha can actually determine those pollutions in other people's minds and then provide them teachings and guidance to be able to help them to eliminate those. They don't do that in an unsolicited way. They would only do that with their own students. This is one of the things that makes them so effective at helping countless people get to enlightenment, is they can observe in other people where their practices may be lacking and then provide them guidance to be able to help them. And then lastly, an individual who's a Buddha, they're going to be a living, breathing, walking example of their teachings. Whatever it is that they teach, they're going to be practicing those same things as well. They understand that they're teaching just as much through their spoken words as they are through their actions. So a Buddha is actually going to be practicing the same teachings that they actually teach. So these are the criteria of what makes a Buddha a Buddha. And this is a very rare type of individual in the world. There are some places that will tell you that everybody is a Buddha, but this isn't true. The Buddha never taught that. He explains in his teachings how rare it is that a Buddha exists in the world. The last Buddha that the world is currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. So you're going to be able to get to enlightenment and you'll be plenty pleased with that mental state, but you're going to need teachers and guides to help you. And you're not going to most likely dedicate the rest of your life to sharing those teachings. And you wouldn't have discovered those teachings on your own. It would have been through the help of a teacher that's done that. And you're not going to preserve the teachings for future generations because that's already what's been done by the Buddha. A Buddha would do that type of work. So you'll be plenty pleased with getting to the enlightened mental state, but you wouldn't be a Buddha at that point. Your mind's going to be completely peaceful and joyful. We're going to talk about this as we go in our class today. We refer to this type of individual who's a Buddha as a fully, perfectly enlightened one. The reason why is that they don't have teachers and guides, that by the time they get to enlightenment, what they understand as the path to enlightenment is the path to enlightenment. If they've tried a certain technique or a certain meditation and it didn't lead to the improvement of the condition of their mind, they will discard it because they know that that didn't work to be able to help them. And then if they try a certain meditation or something like this and it's actually working to improve the condition of their mind, they know that that's the path to enlightenment. The average person who's studying with a teacher who's not a Buddha, if you learn a certain meditation technique, you won't necessarily know 100% whether it actually contributed to your enlightenment or not. So you might have actually gotten to enlightenment, but there's still a little extra baggage around that people will kind of tend to hold on to. So maybe 80, 90, 95% of what they've learned actually led to their enlightenment, but there's still a little bit of extra baggage around of things that they actually are doing that didn't lead to their enlightenment, but they're still doing those kinds of things. So that's why we refer to this type of individual as fully, perfectly enlightened, because they don't have teachers and they will discard anything that didn't contribute to their enlightenment. And now what they do is they spend the rest of their life illuminating the path, making it very clear for people of what it takes to be able to get to enlightenment. So this is what a Buddha is. And they're very significant in the world, very rare in the world, but very important because it helps others to be able to understand the teachings. The teachings will shine in the world when a Buddha is in existence. In terms of what the teachings of the Buddha are, I'm going to help you to understand that, and I'm going to help you to understand what the teachings of the Buddha are not. What the teachings of the Buddha are is it's a path to attaining enlightenment in this life through purification of the mind. The Buddha discovered certain pollutions that are in the mind, and then he discovered the tools and the techniques of how to uproot those pollutions and get them out of the mind. And as you do, you will see the qualities of enlightenment starting to shine through more and more. So even though we say you're attaining enlightenment, one of the ways to think about it is that your mind is already enlightened, but you have these pollutions that are in the way, hindering you from being able to experience it. One of the ways you might think about it is if there's the sun and there's clouds in front of the sun, you need to peel away the clouds in order for the rays of the sun to shine through. But the sun was always there. It's just that you couldn't experience the rays of the sun because they're being blocked by the clouds. So when you peel away the clouds, the rays of the sun will shine through more and more. The only difference in this analogy is that the clouds are going to eventually come back and block the sun again. But by the time you get rid of this pollution out of your mind, it will never come back again. Your mind will be permanently in that mental state where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. This mental state of enlightenment is not a physical destination that you're experiencing after this life. So the Buddha's teachings aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's about learning, growing, and developing in this life to get to the point where your mind has been completely transformed. And as you do, you'll experience this mental state either in this life or at death, where the mind's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. There's no condition that is producing this. The mind is just always in that state where it's just always peaceful and joyful. It's bright, it's cheerful, it's glad, it's uplifted at all times. Because when you have those pollutions that are in your mind, it's very challenging for you to be able to experience that. Instead, you'll experience these types of feelings up here in the unenlightened state. But by the time you get to enlightenment, you don't experience sadness or anger. You don't experience frustration, agitation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All of this is eliminated from the mind because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing it through purification of the mind, through training of the mind. It's those pollutions that are in the mind that are causing these feelings to occur. Oftentimes people think it's the outside world that's causing them to experience the feelings that they're having. You might think it's your mom and dad or your brothers and sisters or your boss or your coworkers or your life partner or your children or politicians or the news or some other thing. The mind blames everybody except understanding that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. So next week in class on Sunday, I'm going to share the very first teaching of the Buddha where you can understand that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings, and you can independently verify this and see the truth for yourself that it's your own mind causing these feelings. And the beauty in this is that you can actually eliminate it. It's not about blame or fault or anything like that. It's about seeing true reality of what's truly happening. And now once you come to understand that it's your own mind causing these feelings, then you can actually eliminate them. That's the beauty in this. Whereas if it's other people that are causing these feelings, you'd never actually be able to eliminate them. So you can get to a point where you've eliminated all these feelings by eliminating the causes and conditions that are producing them. You're not suppressing the feelings or repressing them. You're not ignoring that they're there. You're actually uprooting the causes and conditions that are producing them so that they will no longer be experienced. By the time you purify your mind, you're going to notice a high degree of focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory, because your mind's going to be performing optimally at this point. That in the unenlightened state, you will tend to lack those qualities. You will lack focus, concentration, clarity, and deep memory. But through training your mind, you'll see that those qualities will increase and enhance. You'll notice that you have deep wisdom about the world that other people don't necessarily have, that you'll understand how the world functions and how things happen on a day-to-day basis and why they happen the way that they do. If you've ever watched the news or you ever heard from a friend or family member and you're just like, I don't understand why they keep doing that. I don't understand why this is happening. That's because the mind's living in a world that it doesn't understand. And you can overcome that by cultivating wisdom, and you'll get to a point where you deeply understand why things happen in the way that they do in the world. You might not agree with the way that they're happening, but you'll at least understand why they're happening. And this will create some peace and some joy in your mind because you'll understand the causes and conditions that are leading to these things. By the time you get to enlightenment, you'll notice that you're polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to everybody and anybody. In the unenlightened state, you'll have difficulties with that. There's probably certain situations where you're impolite, unkind, unfriendly, and disrespectful. And as long as you keep doing that, it's going to damage your relationships, and that's all going to come back to you in your relationships. So you can get to a point where you're not doing that anymore, that the mind's been purified of these pollutions, and you'll find it very easy to be polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to people. But in the unenlightened state, that'll be very difficult, and it's almost like a burden carrying around this heaviness. But when you train your mind to not do that, you'll find that it's actually easier to be polite, kind, friendly, respectful to people. It just keeps your life so wonderful because as you're being polite, kind, friendly, and respectful to others, you'll see more and more of that coming back to you. But when you're bitter and harsh and hostile to people, you're going to see that coming back to you in your relationships. So because you're not causing harm to others and you're being so polite, kind, friendly, respectful for an extended period of time as you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment, you'll see your personal, professional relationships really blossoming. They will be at ease, where you won't have that bitterness and hostility anymore. So you'll experience more and more improvement in your relationships. You get to the point where your relationships are all harmonious, where you don't have difficulties and struggles in these relationships any longer. Because that's part of what an unenlightened being experiences. There's certain relationships that you struggle in, maybe with your parents or your life partner or your siblings or your children or people like this. But you can overcome all of that and you can train your mind to not do that anymore. The way that this is all happening is through the elimination of something called craving, anger, and ignorance. I'm going to be exploring this in a lot of detail in this program when we get to chapter 8, because each week I'm going to be going chapter by chapter in our book. But today what I'm going to do is just give you just a little bit of an overview of what this craving, anger, and ignorance is, so you'll understand what's really going on in the mind. This is a high-level way to refer to the pollutions in the mind. There's a deeper level of detail that I'm going to be teaching as part of this program called the 10 fetters, but it helps you to understand it from this level. We refer to these as the 3 poisons or the 3 unwholesome roots or the 3 fires. What craving is where the mind has this longing, yearning, where it's chasing after the objects of its affection. The mind is desiring or attached. It's longing, yearning. It thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some lasting satisfaction. There's certain wants and expectations that the mind has. So it will chase and chase and chase and chase. It's almost like an unquenchable thirst that the mind thinks as something external is going to provide lasting satisfaction. So it'll chase after it and it'll try to grab onto it. And if it gets what it wants, the mind will experience pleasant feelings. Conditional pleasant feelings like happiness, excitement, elation, thrill, exhilaration, or euphoria. The mind will experience that as a conditioned feeling. But then when the mind doesn't get what it wants, the mind will end up in a painful feeling like anger, sadness, frustration, or others. So for example, if you wake up in the morning and you see it's sunny outside and you get really happy and excited about that, that's conditional happiness. Based on the condition that there's the sun, you will now be happy. But the problem with that is even if you get what you want, that happiness will fade away. Because when the sun is no longer there, when it's raining or some other weather event, you'll be angry or frustrated or irritated. This is why you haven't been able to get to permanent happiness yet, because your mind is basing its inner feelings on some impermanent object. So if you get really happy when your bank account balance is up here, well, that means when it goes down here, you're going to be sad or frustrated. The only thing that's happened here is change. But what the unenlightened mind does is it craves permanence, not realizing that it lives in an impermanent world. So when the mind gets what it wants and what it expects, it gets those pleasant feelings. But when it doesn't get what it wants and it expects, it gets the painful feelings. And then there's something called neither painful nor pleasant feelings, which I'll explain at other times in this program. So this craving is producing these discontent feelings. And one of the things that the mind will do is it'll have this anger and frustration that'll come up in the mind. And the mind will firmly believe that this is coming from something external. You'll think it's your mom and dad or your brothers and sisters or your life partner, your children or your boss or some other external object that is producing these discontent feelings. And when this anger and frustration comes up, there's hostility and bitterness in the mind. And it starts to function unskillfully. What an individual will tend to do is push a person away, or you'll push a situation away. This is called aversion, where you might have pushed away a person, like your family member, your friends, or something like this. You might be pushing people away out of your life. And this isn't going to help you to be able to solve the underlying problem of craving, because the mind doesn't understand that it's craving that's causing this anger. It firmly believes that it's this person or this situation that's causing it. So that's why the mind will push this person away. You might have pushed away friends or family out of your life, but you can see that that didn't solve the problem, because when you push them out of your life, you still get angry or you still get frustrated. If they were the true cause of your problem, when you push them out of your life, you'd be peaceful and joyful from that point forward. Or the second thing the mind will do when it doesn't understand that it's craving that's causing this anger is that it'll tend to be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. It's almost like an animal growling and roaring at another animal, trying to fear it into doing things your way. It's kind of like, put your clothes away, do the dishes, right? The mind is trying to fear this other person into doing things your way. And it's trying to get its cravings fulfilled, not realizing that the world is impermanent and trying to pressure this person through fear to be able to do the things the way you want them to do it. Or the third thing you'll do when you don't understand that it's craving that's causing these feelings is you'll tend to pressure people through expectations and putting expectations and trying to obligate this person to do things your way. So as long as you're doing this, you can't live harmoniously with all people because there's only one person in the world that actually does things your way 100% of the time. Do you know who this person is that does things your way 100% of the time? Yourself, right? So it's only a matter of time before when you're with somebody that you're going to encounter things that they do that are different than you. So if you can only be happy when people do things your way, you can only be happy with yourself. And you probably even find that hard to do sometimes, right? So the mind, what it's going to do is because of its craving, it's almost trying to create this little bubble, and it's trying to live in this bubble where everything is being done your way. And when people don't do things your way, you get angry, so you push people out of your bubble. Or you become bitter and harsh and hostile to them, trying to fear them to do it your way. Or you'll put expectations on them and try to pressure them to do it your way, trying to live in this little perfect bubble where everybody does things your way. So you might actually have people doing this to you too. Your friends and family might be doing this to you, or they're pushing you away, or they're being bitter and harsh and hostile to you, or they're putting expectations on you. This is what the mind does in the unenlightened state, not realizing that it's craving that's causing this anger. And that's where this third pollution comes in. It's referred to as ignorance. I use the phrase unknowing of true reality because the Buddha wouldn't have spoke to people in derogatory and degrading ways. People are translating his words into English, and the common way that people will translate it is ignorance, right? But that's a derogatory, diminishing, and degrading way to refer to someone. I would never refer to anybody as ignorant, right? Instead, a better way to think about it is the unknowing of true reality. Lack of wisdom, confusion, that the mind just doesn't understand what it doesn't understand in the unenlightened state. The mind doesn't understand about craving, that the mind is actually causing its own discontent feelings. The mind in the unenlightened state, because of its lack of wisdom, will firmly believe that it's other people that are causing these feelings. And it'll continue to go through the world blaming other people for what you're experiencing. But it's physically impossible for someone to insert a feeling into your mind. It's physically impossible for that to occur, right? Any kind of things that are experienced inside your mind, it's coming from inside your mind. It's not other people that are inserting something into your mind. That's physically impossible, right? So it's this lack of wisdom or this confusion, this misunderstanding, this misperception that the mind just doesn't understand true reality and how the world truly works. That's this ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. So while we call it craving, anger, and ignorance, it's really because of ignorance that craving and anger continues in the mind. If it wasn't for this ignorance or this lack of wisdom, the mind would have already eliminated its craving and anger. But because the mind lacks wisdom, craving continues to exist and anger continues to exist. So what you're doing on this path to enlightenment is you're cultivating wisdom. That's what's going to solve all of this. That's what transforms that ignorance into wisdom. And now when you cultivate wisdom, you will gain the wisdom of how to clean up your mind and eliminate craving and eliminate anger. So the Buddha's path is all about cultivation of wisdom. There is no belief in the teachings of the Buddha. With belief, you don't know what's true or false. You're just believing it. because somebody convinced you to believe it, or you convinced yourself to believe it. You need to get to a point where you know and understand the world through wisdom, that you've independently verified things. And I'm going to help you to understand how to do that. Because the Buddha, when he talks about awakening to enlightenment, what that means is to cultivate wisdom. The Buddha is helping you to be able to understand the natural laws of existence, because the mind in the unenlightened state doesn't understand the natural laws. It doesn't understand how the world truly works. And when you don't understand wisdom and how the world truly works through natural laws, you will tend to struggle and have difficulties. This is what we all did when we were children, that when we didn't understand the natural law of gravity, we struggled and we had difficulties. We fell down, we hit our head, we bumped our elbows, we broke our toys, and we cried and cried and cried because we didn't understand the world that we lived in. But slowly but surely, we cultivated wisdom about this natural law of gravity. We never believed in this natural law. We could actually see it for ourselves. There it is, right? We're not believing that the natural law of gravity exists. We can see it with our own eyes. We've independently verified it. And we've cultivated wisdom about that natural law. And that's why now we don't struggle with it any longer. We tie our shoes a bit tighter. We look at the surface of the sidewalk when we're walking. We stop being so giddy and bouncing around like a kid all the time. And now we can do things like climb ladders, ride bicycles, get on airplanes and fly all over the world, because you could say that we are fully awoke to the natural law of gravity, meaning we've cultivated wisdom and we make wiser decisions. And that's why we experience improved results. We don't struggle and have difficulties with that anymore. In fact, if we fall down now as an adult, we might actually start laughing, right? Because we think it's kind of funny a little bit, right? Whereas a kid, oh my gosh, we were so upset when those kinds of things happened, right? So what you're doing on this path to enlightenment is you're cultivating wisdom about the natural laws of existence. There's certain natural laws that are affecting you, whether you're aware of them or not. Just like the natural law of gravity, we weren't aware of it when we were a child, but it was affecting us, whether we were aware of it or not. There's other natural laws that are in this world that, if you're not aware of them, they're still affecting you. So the Buddha, what he's doing in his teachings is he's explaining to you these natural laws and helping you to be able to see these natural laws. Part of that is how your mind operates and how the world around you operates. And now as you cultivate wisdom about that through learning, investigating the teachings, examining those teachings, then reflecting on them to verify if they're true or they're false, and then practicing those teachings, integrating them into your day-to-day life, this is where you'll cultivate wisdom and you'll be able to see the truth. So the teachings of the Buddha in getting to enlightenment isn't just purely intellectual. It's not about just studying a bunch of books and you're going to get to enlightenment. Yes, you're going to need intellectual understanding. That's why you come to a class like this. That's why you read the books that a teacher is sharing with you. That's why you are learning those things to intellectually examine what's being shared. But then you don't believe those teachings. You move it into reflection to be able to independently verify through your own direct experience whether this teaching is potentially true or is it false. And now when you independently verify it through your own direct experience, you start moving it into your practice and you start practicing and making decisions through those teachings on a day-to-day basis. And where you see that it's improving the condition of your mind in your life, you're seeing your relationships improve, you're seeing the condition of your mind improve, that's how you'll know that that teaching is true, because it's leading to improvement in your day-to-day life. And now over a long-term period of time, you'll consistently cultivate wisdom, making better and better decisions in your day-to-day life, and the condition of your mind in your life is gradually improving. So you're awakening to what we refer to as the natural law of dhamma. Now, some people might have heard this referred to as karma. This is the Sanskrit way of referring to this. It's a certain language, but the original teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali language. So we use the word dhamma in this particular tradition because that's the Pali word. If this translated to just one English word, I would use that, but it doesn't, unfortunately. It doesn't translate to just one English word. Essentially, what this means is cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. Whenever you make decisions, either wisely or unwisely, you're going to experience results. Those results are your karma. So when you make decisions wisely, you will experience wholesome karma, or wholesome results. When you make decisions unwisely, you will experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome karma. So this isn't anything mystical or magical. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about who's to blame or who's at fault. There's no, entity or being who's overseeing this and dishing things out. It's literally like a sequence of events. Whenever you make a certain decision, you're going to experience a certain result based in that decision. So the more that you understand this natural law and you making decisions through it, that's where you'll experience more and more results in your day-to-day life of wholesome dhamma or wholesome results. So for example, if I was walking down the beach and wind was blowing in my face and I'm kicking up the sand and the sand is blowing in my face, if I'm like, this is good luck or bad luck, or this is destiny or fate, or this is God who's doing this, or some entity called the universe that is controlling what I'm experiencing. Or if I started blaming this on other people, then I'm not seeing true reality. I don't understand that the reason why I'm getting the sand blowing back in my face is from my decisions. But when I start to understand that, and I start to understand the natural law of karma, and there's a sequence of events here that is leading to me experiencing the sand blowing back in my face, well, if there's anything in your life that you don't particularly care for and you would rather that thing not occur, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. That's the beauty of the natural law of karma, that you can cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you'll experience different results. And now you can completely transform everything that you're experiencing in your life, getting to a point where you're living an ideal life, where you thoroughly enjoy each and every aspect of your life. That's what the Buddha is guiding you to be able to get to. And the way that you do this is by learning and cultivating wisdom of the natural laws of existence. The main natural law that you're learning is the natural law of karma. So the Buddha is not teaching you the way the world should be, and that if everybody follows rules and commandments, the world's going to become a better place. That's not what the Buddha did. He's not explaining to you the way the world should be. He's explaining to you the way the world is. Because by understanding the way the world is and these natural laws, now you'll be able to navigate that world more peacefully. But if we continue to think that what we're experiencing is good luck or bad luck or destiny or fate or God or some entity called the universe, or that it's other people that are causing us to experience certain things, now we don't cultivate wisdom, we don't make better decisions, and we keep experiencing the same things over and over and over and over again in our life. So the Buddha is teaching you how to get to the point where you understand how the world truly is. So what you're doing on this path is you're training the mind to experience complete peace and joy through acquiring wisdom of these natural laws and eradicating pollutions out of the mind. And one of the pollutions that the mind needs to eradicate is this ignorance or this unknowing of true reality. And that's why you're never interested in believing anything. Don't believe what I say. Don't believe what I write in books. Don't believe what anybody else says. I'm going to show you next week, when I teach you the very first teaching of the Buddha, how to learn something intellectually, how to reflect on that to verify it, and then how to practice it in order to be able to see the results in your day-to-day life. And slowly but surely, you cultivate this wisdom of these natural laws, and that's where things just get better and better for you in your life. The teachings of the Buddha are timeless. He spoke very clear, very concise, and very precise. All the things that I share with students are based in the original words of the Buddha. And where appropriate, I actually share those original words, whether it's in the books or whether it's in the classes. You will find the original words of the Buddha in all the resources that I share with you. And you'll see that he speaks very clear, very concise, and very precise. His teachings are timeless because he's describing these natural laws. And these natural laws don't change. They're the same exact natural laws that existed during his lifetime. So you don't have to interpret his words. You don't have to figure out what it is that he was sharing. You'll be able to see very clearly what it is that he taught. He speaks very clear, very concise, and very precise, and his teachings are timeless. He does teach about the cycle of rebirth and the 5 realms of existence. He taught these things for a reason, and I'll explain to you guys why he taught these things. But when you're first getting started on the path to enlightenment, I suggest you set these things aside because it really doesn't matter at this point. What's happened in the past, it's in the past. It doesn't matter. What may or may not happen in the future, it's in the future. It hasn't happened yet. The fact is that now you're a human being. You experience discontentedness like anger, sadness, and frustration. You're interested to eliminate that. And that's what the path to enlightenment is all about, focusing on the core central teachings to be able to uproot the causes and conditions that are producing these feelings. But the Buddha did teach these things for a reason, because number one, it's true. This is what's actually happening. And you can independently verify this. Remember, don't believe anything, including the cycle of rebirth and including the 5 realms of existence. Don't ever believe that. Right now, you're probably believing that you only have one life. But you don't have any evidence that you only have one life. You're just believing it because right now, maybe you can't remember your previous lives. But when you start focusing on the core central teaching of the Buddha and you start training your mind through his teachings and you're uprooting this pollution out of the mind, there's the potential that you might start having memories of your past lives. And if you start having memories of your past lives and you don't understand that that's what that is, it could really shake you up. So say, for example, someone was murdered in their previous life. And now in their current life, they start having these recurring memories of being murdered over and over and over and over and over again. Well, if you didn't understand that was your past life, that could really shake you up because obviously you weren't murdered in this life, but you just keep having these residual thoughts over and over and over and over again of being murdered. Well, if you understand that this is your past life, you can just train your mind to let that go and set it aside, and it doesn't need to disturb your mind. But if you didn't understand that, and the Buddha didn't teach you that that is true reality, that's the way the world works, as you're lifting this pollution out of your mind and you're starting to have these memories, it could really shake you up. Or if you started having interaction with beings in these 5 realms and you didn't understand that's the way the world really is, it could shake you up. Because some of these beings are form beings like animals and humans, but there's some beings that are formless beings like beings in the hell realm or afflicted spirits, which are ghosts, or the heavenly realm. These are formless beings. They don't have physical form. But some people can actually see these beings. And if you started seeing these beings, you might actually think that you're going crazy if you didn't understand that that is the way the world is, that you don't have to be scared of that ghost. You don't have to be scared of that hell being or that heavenly being, because oftentimes people think that these realms are in some far distant world where the heavenly beings are way up in the sky and the hell beings are deep down in the core of the earth. This isn't true. Just like there's a human being sitting here in this chair, and right now I'm sitting here and I could get up and leave, there could be an animal that comes in and sits here too. Right? There could be a cockroach that sits here, most likely. There could be a dog. There could be a gecko. There could be anything that could come and sit here. The same thing is true about hell beings, afflicted spirits, and these heavenly beings. They're all in the same time and space as all of us. So some people can actually see these beings. And if other people don't see them and you see them, you could think that there's something wrong with you and your mind's crazy. But if you understand that that's true reality and that's the way the world truly works, you don't need to be shaken up by that. And then lastly, some people can actually hear these beings speaking because again, they're in the same time and space as us. And if you hear these voices, you could actually think you're going crazy because other people don't hear it. But just like you're at a restaurant and 2 tables over, somebody could be talking particularly loud. And now in this particular situation, you can tune that out and you can train your mind to not be affected by that. You can do the same thing with these beings in the hell realm, the afflicted spirit realm, and the heavenly realm. If you're not interested in paying attention to what it is that you're hearing in that communication, you can train your mind to ignore that. But if you didn't understand that was true reality, it could really shake you up. So there's 17 different ways that I've documented that you can independently verify the cycle of rebirth. And I've put this in our book series. It's in volume 11, chapter 105. But it's in volume 11, chapter 105 for a reason. You shouldn't feel like you need to rush out and go look at these things right now. But this is something that students can get to at some point if they would like to. The Buddha did teach about this being of God. Sometimes people think that the Buddha didn't teach about this being. You'll hear some people say that the Buddha rejected God, or the Buddha denied the existence of God. Or you'll hear some people say that when the Buddha was asked a question about God, he said it was irrelevant and he didn't answer it. This is not true. Anybody who says those things, they haven't penetrated into the teachings of the Buddha close enough. Because if you look at the teachings of the Buddha closely, he did teach about this being, but he didn't put this being at the center of his teachings, because it's not this being who determines whether or not you get to enlightenment or not. Instead, he put you at the center of his teachings, because it's your decisions that determine whether or not you get to enlightenment. So you can actually get to enlightenment with a relationship with this being, if that's what you would like to do, or you can get to enlightenment without a relationship with this being, if that's what you would like to do. So there's a point in our program where I'll help you guys to understand this being more closely, but just understand that this being isn't at the center of these teachings, because it's not this being who determines whether you get to enlightenment. There isn't any kind of worship or praise. You don't need to fear this being. It's not this being that's punishing you or rewarding you. There's no going to heaven and living with this being permanently. That's not what the Buddha taught. He just helps you to understand that this being does exist and the qualities of this being. But that's basically about it. So I'm going to help you guys to understand those kinds of things. The largest, most complete collection of the teachings of the Buddha are in the Pali Canon. This is 45 books that are about this thick, and this is where they've documented the teachings of the Buddha to be able to help students to be able to understand what the Buddha actually taught. And what we've done in our book series is we've consolidated that into 13 books and make it available to students at no cost. We call this book series The Words of the Buddha, The Path to Enlightenment, Revealing the Hidden. Because the Buddha's teachings have really been hidden for many, many generations. Not intentionally hidden, but they actually have been inaccessible to people. Because those 45 books that are this thick, it's very expensive to print those out. Here in Thailand, it would actually take the average person about 3 months of their salary to be able to acquire a full collection of these teachings. So the average person, the average temple, doesn't actually even have these books available to them. So the way the teachings have been shared for countless generations is through oral transmission, from one person to the next, to the next, to the next. And this is why we have so many misunderstandings in the teachings of the Buddha. Because if you've ever played that game when you were a child, when maybe you whisper to somebody, like the orange tiger jumped over the green fence and landed in the blue pond, if that goes all the way around the room, 5 minutes later, it's like the gray elephant, walked through the brown barn and sat on the green turtle. Right? It's like completely changed by the time it's come around here. And that's just in 5 minutes as it makes its way around the room. We've had 2,500 years of this. So we've had countless misunderstandings make their way into the teachings of the Buddha. And the Buddha cautioned people not to change his teachings, because once you change a Buddha's teachings, it's going to cause harm to you, and it's going to cause harm to countless people. But he knew that people would change his teachings, and he talks about how to ensure that his teachings are understood and practiced closely. And those are things that you're going to be learning as part of this program, about how to cut through this impermanent nature of these teachings and getting to a point where you can see true reality and you'll know what did the Buddha teach and what he didn't teach. So lastly, the teachings of the Buddha, what they are, is to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. That's what the teachings of the Buddha are for. It's to do this inner work, this inner growth, this inner development. What's hurting you is not the outside world. It's what's going on inside your own mind. It's the inner world that needs to be worked on. So the teachings of the Buddha are to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. And as you heal from this and you do this inner work, you'll get to a point where your mind's peaceful and joyful. And it's a permanent mental state that you never need to experience mental anguish and all these other discontent feelings ever again. So I'm going to pause here and see if you guys have questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are. Remember, we have microphones for you guys here, and online you can put this into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So is there anybody here online that has questions? I see some questions here on YouTube. Let's see what we've got. A bunch of hellos. Hello from Mumbai. Hello, hello. Teacher, who translated the Pali to English? Are the Pali Canon translated into all languages? What was the time frame of this translation? So to answer your question is that there definitely has been a significant amount of work in translating the Pali Canon. I don't think that it's in every single language. I know that it's in the Thai language. We have it in the English language. There's probably other languages that probably have it as well. The translations that I have, the bulk of the translations were done by a monk, an ordained practitioner named Bhikkhu Bodhi, but there's about 4 to 6 different translators. And these 4 to 6 different translators were translating in all these different ways. So what I did is I brought all of this together and I updated the word choices so that it would read from just one author. So when you're reading the translations that I share, they're unique to what it is that I share, but the bulk of those translations were done by Bhikkhu Bodhi over the course of 27 years that it took him to be able to translate all of that. And then it took many years for me to be able to bring it into the format that it's in now and update the word choices. So there's been a lot of commitment and dedication to be able to provide this. And I know that these particular teachings that I share will definitely lead to an individual's enlightenment. And this is the word choices that is going to help you to be able to understand what the Buddha actually taught. But then I teach you, don't believe those words in these books. You need to learn it. You need to reflect on it and practice it. Let's see if we have any other questions. All right, I don't see any other questions. So now let me share with you guys what the teachings of the Buddha are not. This is another way that I actually teach, is I'll share something with you of what it is, and then I'll share with you what something is not, because that actually helps you to understand what something is by understanding what something is not. The teachings of the Buddha are not a collection of beliefs, doctrine, concepts, opinions, or views that will produce some type of pleasant afterlife if you believe in them, and an unpleasant afterlife if you don't believe in them. In fact, the teachings of the Buddha aren't even about an afterlife. It's about right now, getting to a wonderful life now. His teachings aren't beliefs. They're not opinions or views. They are truths that you can independently verify. He's explaining to you the natural laws of the world. And because you're living in this world, you can learn those teachings and then you can independently verify them through your own direct experience. So the Buddhist teachings aren't about belief. It's not about rules. It's not about opinions or views. It's about helping you to be able to see true reality. Because there's going to be things that I share with you that are completely opposite of the way you currently think about the world right now. And that's a wonderful thing to be in that type of classroom. Because if you're in the type of classroom where everything the teacher says you already understand, and that's the way your mind currently thinks, well, you're in the wrong classroom, right? Because if your mind's currently angry and frustrated, you have sadness and stress and anxiety at different times in your life, well, there's a certain amount of wisdom that your mind's lacking. You need to grow and develop this wisdom. So if you're in a classroom where you're learning all the same things you already currently think about the world, you're not growing, you're not developing, you're not cultivating wisdom to get to that point where your mind can understand the world that you live in and purify the mind. So you're going to hear plenty of things that I teach that are completely different than what you currently think about the world. And that's a really wonderful thing. But understand that what I'm sharing with you are not opinions or views. They're not beliefs. They're not rules or doctrine. It's helping you to be able to see these natural laws. And where you're having difficulties to see that, that's where you ask questions and get clarification. And then I will help you to be able to see how to independently verify each of the things that I share. Because everything that I share, I've already independently verified it. So if you are having difficulties to do that, you just ask me, David, how can I independently verify that? And then I will help you to be able to see how to independently verify it. I think of the teachings of the Buddha as not a religion, but this really comes down to how you think about religion, right? If you think about religion as one person at the top telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing, or if you think about religion as having rites, rituals, ceremonies, worship, and things like this, or if you think about religion as having rules and commandments that everybody must follow, and that's what's going to create a peaceful world, well, in my opinion, the teachings of the Buddha aren't a religion, because the teachings of the Buddha don't have any of these things. Depending on what you've been exposed to in your life, you might have actually been exposed to some of these things thinking that those are the teachings of the Buddha. But there's not just one person at the top of Buddhism telling everybody else what they should or shouldn't be doing. There are absolutely no rites, rituals, ceremonies, or worship in the original teachings of the Buddha. Those things have made their way into modern temples and the mind of different people today, but those are huge misunderstandings in people's minds. The Buddha didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship because it doesn't lead to wisdom. You need to be able to cultivate wisdom about the natural laws and do this inner work and this inner growth, this inner development. There's no amount of water that I can sprinkle on you that's going to help you improve your relationship with your boyfriend or your girlfriend. There's no amount of strings that I can tie on your wrist that's going to improve your career, right? You need to cultivate wisdom. That's why the Buddha didn't teach rites, rituals, ceremonies, and worship, because it doesn't lead to improvement in an individual's life. If you've been exposed to those things, just understand that those are misunderstandings, and the Buddha never taught any of those things. He also didn't teach rules and commandments. He's teaching you these natural laws and then inviting you to be able to learn them, reflect on them, and practice them so you can see the truth for yourself. So I don't think of the Buddha's teachings as a religion. It's this better way of life of transforming your mind and training your mind to get to this point where you can experience the peace and the joy. If you've been taught through punishments and rewards, that's not the way the Buddha teaches. He doesn't teach through punishments and rewards. That's not what he's doing. So his teachings are not that. Also, his teachings are not mystical or magical or superstitious or auspicious things. He says very clearly in his teachings that there's nothing superstitious and auspicious in his teachings. So if you actually have been taught that way, then that's not the teachings of the Buddha. Also, these teachings are not something to attempt to force or convince other people to do. Sometimes when you come to a place like this, they will load you up with a bunch of things and then they will send you out into the world in order to convince other people to do these same type of things. That's not the way the teachings of the Buddha work. This path is for you to learn, grow, and develop. It's a path of inner work and inner discovery and inner growth. It's not about convincing other people to do something and pressuring other people to do something. In fact, that's what you're working to eliminate from your practice and no longer be doing those kinds of things. If you've spent any amount of time on social media, and you might have seen these short little catchy phrases, and they'll say, the Buddha, right? It's like a little meme or something like this. If you've seen any of those kinds of things, I've researched a lot of them. 99.99999% of the time, it's not even from the Buddha. It's a quote from like the last 50 years or 100 years or 200 years. It has nothing to do with the Buddha's teachings at all. He doesn't have these little short, catchy phrases. His teachings are very deep and very meaningful, very profound. He has these discourses that really explain to you what's going on in the world. And you can't do that in short, little, catchy phrases. So if you're seeing these little short, catchy phrases, in most situations, they're actually conflicting with what the Buddha actually taught himself. So just because you see something that has the name the Buddha slapped on it, don't think that that's from the Buddha. Don't believe that. You need to be able to know for yourself what was actually taught, because that can be misleading for you. And then lastly, what the teachings of the Buddha are not, is they are not teachings that are stuck in a cultural past and that they degrade or disparage other people. Sometimes when you think about somebody teaching 2,500 years ago, you might think that, oh, maybe they're outdated or they're stuck in a cultural past, or maybe he degraded and denigrated, women, or maybe he degraded and denigrated people who have same gender relationships or something like that. That's not true. You will never see any of those kinds of things in the teachings of the Buddha. Today, you might see people that are doing those things, and they might be saying that they're doing it based in Buddhism, but you will never see the words of the Buddha where he degrades or denigrates anybody. He taught women how to be respectful towards men, but he taught men how to be respectful towards women. He never taught that same-gender relationships are any kind of harmful activity, because it's two loyal, loving, consenting adults choosing to have sex with each other. They're not causing harm to anybody at all, right? So you won't see the Buddha judging other people or degrading or disparaging people. This is how wise he was 2,500 years ago. He didn't base his teachings in culture. He based them in the natural laws. And if you learn and practice these teachings, it doesn't matter what culture you actually go to, you can actually practice with ease. Because what culture is this population of people have decided that these things are acceptable. But now this population of people over here has decided completely opposite things of this group of people over here, and they've decided these things are acceptable, right? And now when you try to navigate all these cultures, you get very confused about where you're at and what, how you should function in any given situation. But if you get to the point where you're practicing the natural laws, it cuts through culture. I've been to places like Mexico, the USA, in the Middle East and places like Egypt and places like that, all throughout Asia. And I practice the same exact things that I practice here, that I practice in other places. And it works perfectly because it's the natural laws. And you'll see that you'll actually have very harmonious relationships and be able to easily navigate the world. So the Buddhist teachings aren't stuck in a cultural past that degrades and denigrates any group of people. So any questions on what the teachings of the Buddha are not? No questions? Okay. So now I'll move into, we have a question here on YouTube. So that question you're asking about your workers and how to ignore that, I'll get to that in future classes. Now I'm introducing this program. This is a question that you're asking is more specific to something else that I'm not going to be teaching today. Okay. So just a little summary of what I was just teaching you. What a Buddha is someone who's gotten to enlightenment by themselves without the help of any teachers or any guides. They dedicate the rest of their life to sharing their independently discovered teachings with countless people, and countless people will get to enlightenment. Then they preserve their teachings in such a way that countless more people will get to enlightenment. This is a very rare and unique type of individual in the world, and the last one that the world's currently aware of existed over 2,500 years ago. That's what a Buddha is. The path to enlightenment is a journey of growing, learning, discovering, being reflective and introspective to do this inner work of cultivation of wisdom and developing a life practice where you're essentially becoming a better and better human being. You're moving to a higher consciousness where you're interacting in the world in better and better ways. What enlightenment is a mental state where you've trained your mind to get to a point where it's completely peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. There's no more discontent feelings in the mind. It's physically impossible for an enlightened being to experience any discontent feelings. Okay, so this is what I was just teaching you. Now, to understand these teachings and really what they truly are, it's to heal from what hurt you so that you never need to hurt ever again. This is a statement that I share frequently because you need to be able to understand that the teachings of the Buddha do this inner work, this inner growth and inner development. This is what the teachings of the Buddha truly are. It's for you to become a better and better person, experiencing improvement in your mind and getting to this better way of life. Now, what the program is, I'm going to explain what this group learning program is, how you can be successful in it, and the way that I actually teach. So this program, what it is it's a live, interactive, either in-person or online classes where I'm sharing the path to enlightenment. I teach it here on Sundays, Sunday morning at 9 a.m. and Sunday night at 9 p.m. And I live stream it from here because like right now, the people in Europe are sleeping and they can't attend this live class. So that's why tonight at 9 p.m. I'm going to be teaching this class again so that no matter where you are, there's a live class available to you. And for people in North, Central, and South America, you'll have two options available to you where you could attend, Saturday night or Sunday morning. People in Australia right now can be learning and stuff like that. So I've organized in such a way that no matter where you are in the world, there's a live class available for you. And where you miss that live class, there's recordings to be able to help you to be able to learn. So on Sundays and Wednesdays at 9 a.m. and 9 p.m., I'll be teaching. The 9 p.m. class on Wednesdays, I do this from home. I don't do it from here. But the 9 a.m. class, I do it from here. But either way, it's going to be online. On Sundays, I discuss a chapter from this book. I usually go chapter by chapter by chapter. The first several classes, we're not going to be starting at chapter 1. I'm going to explain that to you in a moment. But by and large, what we're going to be doing every Sunday is going chapter by chapter in this book, which you can get for free. So we'll start with meditation, and then I'll share a talk on the teachings, and then there'll be question and answers throughout the talk. And then on Wednesdays, I'm going to be teaching meditation, and then you'll be learning about the Pali chanting through the meditation, and then there's going to be opportunity for questions and answers. There's a Facebook group that has daily posts that I post there, and students will ask questions in there as well. So if you would like to get into the Facebook group, you can actually access that, and there's ability for you to learn through there as well. There's a book, audiobook, there's a video library, there's podcasts and quizzes. It's all available at no cost. If you would like to get access to this book, you can download it from our website at buddhadailywisdom.com. It's completely free. You can take it and go print it yourself. You can get printed versions here by reimbursing us for the printing cost, or you can order it on Amazon. And now with a version of that book, you can be learning in the classes and you can be learning from the book, because there's certain things that are in the classes that aren't in the book. And there's certain things that are in the book that aren't in the classes. So a combination of the two, you'll be able to fully learn what it is that's being shared with you. And at the end of each chapter, there's links that take you to these quizzes. If you would like to use those to confirm your understanding, that'll help you as well. There's ongoing support where you can ask questions. There's essentially 4 ways that you can get help. You can ask questions in these live classes. You can post in our Facebook group, and I'll be the only one who answers your question. You can send a private message, or you can schedule personal guidance where you schedule online or you schedule in person, and we'll meet one-on-one. Because it's one thing to learn in class, but it's a whole other thing to apply it to your day-to-day life. So if you would like to meet privately, there's an unlimited number of times that you can do that, where I'll sit down with you and help you to understand how to apply the teachings of the Buddha in a specific situation that you're having difficulties and challenges with. So you can think about the teacher like a tour guide, that we're pointing out for you the things that you need to learn and understand, and then it's you that's doing the work. You're not a devotee. You're not a follower. You are an independent practitioner who's looking to cultivate wisdom. And you're coming to a teacher like a tour guide to point out for you the things that you need to learn and understand. So you'll do that in classes and courses, retreats, through books and videos, but you also have personal guidance sessions that you can do that as well. You might even think about a Buddhist teacher like a life coach, where we're kind of coaching you and guiding you, not telling you what you should or shouldn't do in your life, but providing you the guidance that you need based on you being interested in receiving that guidance. The reason why somebody would take a program like this is to attain enlightenment. That's what an individual would be interested in, is to grow and develop to get to this point where the mind's actually enlightened, where it's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy, where they've eliminated these discontent feelings, where they're able to peacefully meet the challenges of their day-to-day life with wisdom instead of struggles and difficulties, where they can improve their personal and professional relationships. They can increase the way that their mind functions in terms of focus, concentration, clarity, and memory. And then also, as part of this, you will eliminate the cycle of rebirth and not continue to come back into the world over and over and over and over again. The way that you integrate these teachings into your day-to-day life is that you would like to attend weekly classes where you're just dripping the teachings into your mind little by little by little. That's what the Sundays and Wednesdays are for. And then there's in-depth courses, like 5-day courses and retreats that I teach that you can take either here or online, because I live stream those as well. So you would like to be slowly dripping the teachings into your mind through learning in person or online. And then this book, you would like to be reading about 10, 15, 20 minutes a day. Most of the chapters can actually be read in about 15 or 20 minutes, the entire chapter. There's a few chapters that'll take you about an hour or so, but I suggest you break those up into about 10, 15, or 20 minutes. It's kind of like taking a big bite of pizza. If you were to try to chew on that, it'd be very challenging for you to digest it and swallow it. But if you take small little bites, it's easier to chew it and digest it. So it's the same thing with this, that you need to not just plow through the book and hurry up and get to the end. Sometimes that's what people do with like a novel or a storybook. They'll kind of plow through the book because they want to know what the ending of the story is. They want to know what's the ending of the story. So I'm going to explain to you what the ending of the story of this book is so that you don't actually have to plow through it. And you can take your time to independently verify it. The ending of the story of this book is that you get to enlightenment. You get to a peaceful and joyful mental state. So now just take your time and gradually make your way through this book, because you need to actually independently verify what it is that you're reading. You're not just interested in sitting down for 2 or 3 hours and plowing through the book, because you can't independently verify all of that content that you digested in 2 or 3 hours. So just take your time and gradually walk your way through that. Then you're going to need to build up a regular practice of generosity where you're giving and sharing with the people around you. This is going to train your mind to let go, because with that craving, desire, attachment in the mind's holding on. It doesn't want to let go. So the breathing mindfulness meditation is helping your mind to let go, but so is generosity. And we're going to be talking about this throughout the program, but this is something that you'll need to build up in your day-to-day life, is where you're practicing generosity. You're going to need to work on improving your moral conduct. There's a certain amount of bitterness and harshness and hostility that's coming through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And you would like to improve that, because as long as you're putting that out, it's going to just keep coming back to you. So I'm going to start giving you guidance on this through the teachings of the Buddha as how to make adjustments to the way that you interact with people on a day-to-day basis. And as you choose to make those wise decisions, you will see your relationships gradually improve. So there's some improvement to an individual's moral conduct that they need to make as they're progressing on the path to enlightenment, which is going to improve what you experience on a day-to-day basis. And then you're going to need to build up your meditation practice. I'm going to help you with all of this stuff. Starting next week, I'm going to dive into the teachings of the Buddha and start to really uncover all of this for you of how to build this practice. This is called the way of practice, where the Buddha was asked during his lifetime, what are 3 simple things that I can be doing on a daily basis in order to be able to make my way to enlightenment? He shared to practice generosity, to improve your moral conduct, and then meditate. These are the things that you're doing on a daily basis, regularly practicing generosity, improving your moral conduct, and then meditating. This is the 3 simple things that you can be doing as you're getting your arms around all the other teachings that it takes to be able to clean up the mind. Just like when we were a child and we learned how to clean this body and people taught us how to do that, what the Buddha is teaching you to do is to clean up this mind. Because if you haven't learned how to clean the mind and you don't have that wisdom, of course you have stress and anxiety. Of course you have frustration and agitation. Because if you didn't clean this body for several days, weeks, months, or years, you would walk around being pretty uncomfortable. So if you haven't been cleaning your mind, this other part to this being who you are, well, of course you're uncomfortable in certain situations. So you just need the wisdom of how to clean the mind and things will just get better for you. So that's what the Buddha is helping you to be able to understand. And then as you need help, you seek guidance from a teacher. That's what a teacher is here for, is for you to be able to seek guidance. You can reach out at any time. If you look at our website, you'll see all my contact information. You can reach out and I'm here to help you. So this is the book that you would like to get. It's available from our website. It's the first book of the book series that I share. So feel free to download this or take it and go print it, get printed versions here, or you can order it on Amazon. This is the book that's going to guide our program. And you'll see that at a certain point, I'll be going through this chapter by chapter by chapter. Okay, so I've basically already covered all of these things. The only thing that I haven't really covered on this particular slide is down here is if there's things that you've learned in the past about the teachings of the Buddha, as challenging as it may be for you, you're going to need to set those things aside because oftentimes people have learned things that aren't actually true. And for those of you guys that maybe have studied other places already when I've been teaching so far, you're probably hearing things that are very opposite of what it is that you've learned in other places. And again, that's very helpful for you. So as challenging as that's going to be, you're going to need to set those things aside, and that's going to help you to be able to see true reality of the teachings of the Buddha. So you can digest this content through Facebook, YouTube, or on Zoom. You can use the recording or you can use the live classes. And everything that I'm sharing with you is going to be able to be independently verified for yourself. And that's what's going to lead to the mind cultivating wisdom and getting to the point where it's enlightened. I'm going to help you to build up a breathing mindfulness meditation practice and a loving kindness meditation practice, in addition to all the other teachings that you need to be able to make your way to enlightenment. So I'll share this with you guys, is that when you're starting a new program like this, sometimes people have really high hopes. They have a lot of expectations. It's the very next craving. It's the next thing that they're chasing after. And you'll see a lot of people join at the beginning of a program. And then over time, people's minds become complacent and they'll kind of slowly start to diminish the number of people that are actually attending a program like this. Understand that a program like this, you'll actually get out of it whatever you put into it. No one's ever accomplished anything magnificent through complacency. If you're complacent, if you're dull, if you're lethargic, if you're unwilling to put in determination, dedication, and diligence to learning and growing and developing, well, then you're not going to experience the true results of what's capable for you to experience. But if you put in effort and energy, dedication and determination to reading each week, to attending classes, to building up your meditation practice, to improving the way that you interact in the world with your parents and your siblings and your life partner and people like this, you'll see results and you'll see improvement. It's like climbing a mountain and getting to the top of the summit, right? Like when you're walking up the mountain, it can feel very challenging. When you're at the bottom of the mountain, it can be like, wow, that mountain's so tall. I don't know if I can ever climb that mountain. But if you just focus on one step at a time, next thing you know, you're halfway up the mountain. And the beauty about climbing this mountain is once you get to the top, you don't need to come back down, because the mind getting to enlightenment, it's a permanent mental state. Typically, when you climb up a mountain, you get a beautiful view, you get fresh air, but then you got to come back down, right? When you train your mind to get to enlightenment, you don't need to come back down from that. It's a permanent mental state that you'll be experiencing for the rest of your life. And then lastly, just to kind of share with you guys what I'm going to be doing over the coming weeks, is on Sundays, this first class is just a welcome and introduction to the group learning program. But the second, third, and fourth Sunday, I'm going to be taking this central teaching of the Buddha, which is the Eightfold Path, and I'm going to be breaking it down into the three sections: the wisdom section, the moral conduct section, and the mental discipline section. We're going to hone in on those in 3 separate Sundays and really making sure students understand this core central teaching of the Buddha and what he actually taught on this important topic. So I'm not going to be going through the book on the first several Sundays. I'm going to be instead really diving in detail into this central teaching. This is actually chapter 4 and 5. So if you're interested in reading, it is chapter 4 and 5, but we're going to also cover that later in the program as well. But we're just going to dive into this central teaching so that in 3 classes, you'll have your arms around, at least at an introductory level, what the Buddha taught with this central teaching. And then on the 5th class, I'm going to be teaching the 10 fetters. These are the 10 pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind, and everything that he's teaching you is how to uproot these out of the mind. But by the 6th Sunday, that's where I'm going to start with chapter 1. And then from there forward, I'm going to be every Sunday teaching chapter by chapter by chapter by chapter. So you have some time here to be able to acquire one of these books and start to read. And then there's going to be this preliminary information that by the time we get to the 6th Sunday, you will have seen a good portion of the path to enlightenment before we ever get started with chapter 1. Then on Wednesdays, I'm going to do a 4-part series on learning breathing mindfulness meditation, helping students to build that up, because that's the meditation that you start with. Then on the 5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th Wednesday, I'm going to be teaching loving kindness meditation and helping students to build that up. And then from that point forward, each Wednesday, I'm going to be alternating between breathing mindfulness meditation and loving kindness meditation, where I'm just going to be guiding students in meditation, and then I'm going to open up whatever questions students have. But these classes here, I'm actually going to be teaching meditation and helping students to build this practice up. So do you guys have any questions on anything that I've shared today? Anything you'd like to ask? Questions? Okay, we have some more coming in here on YouTube. Okay, you're welcome. I see everybody just saying thank you. Thank you. Okay, you're welcome. Pleased to help you guys. Okay, so I don't see any questions anywhere else throughout our platforms here. So what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to end class the way I typically do, which is say thank you so much for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. Thank you for taking time out of your day to come here and train your mind to be a better person, because this is helping you, it's helping all those around you, and it's helping all of humanity. As you become kinder, gentler, more peaceful and joyful, it's helping you, it's helping those around you, and it's helping all of humanity become a better place. So thank you for your dedication to that. If you guys would like to learn more here at the temple, we have a bulletin board over there that'll share with you all the options for you to be able to learn. Like today at 6:30, we have a meditation that I'm going to be doing here that syncs up with the Sunday night walking market. And there's other options for you to learn over there as well. And there's even like parties and social events that we have on Fridays at 6 p.m. and stuff like that. So you'll see all of that on our bulletin board on our website as well. So those of you guys here, have a very lovely and wonderful rest of your day. Those of you guys that are online, have a wonderful day. Whatever you choose to do, be well and take care. And perhaps I'll see you guys in another class. Take care. Sawadee krap.
Thank you for listening to this podcast. To provide support for this podcast, visit patreon.com/support Buddha. To access more teachings, visit buddhadailywisdom.com. There, you will discover a full range of courses, retreats, and online resources to assist you on the path to enlightenment. Remember to establish a daily, consistent meditation practice, along with learning and practicing these teachings. A well-developed meditation practice is the foundation in which to train the mind to attain enlightenment.